Teamfight Tactics' new set, Rise of the Elements, is right around the corner, with new mechanics, champions, and synergies, throwing just about everything you know about the game out the window. But don't worry, this video is here to help walk you through the new additions so that you can stay one step ahead of the competition. Of course, if you find this video helpful and want to see more like it, hit that like, subscribe, and let me know what you want to hear more about in the comments below. But for now, let's get into it. There's a lot to cover here with just the elemental mechanics, so I won't be covering all the champions in this video. Instead, we're going to go over the new elemental tiles, the new synergies, and two of the more complex champions, Qiyana and Lux. First things first, a new row has been added to the board, taking it from 3x7 to 4x7, which doesn't sound like much, but it really opens up the board and allows for more strategic positioning, which is really going to be important when playing around the new elemental tiles. So what are elemental tiles? They're spots on the board that give buffs to any champions placed on it that can be either Inferno, giving 30% attack speed, Cloud, giving 30% dodge chance, Ocean, giving 30 mana, or Mountain, giving 30 max health each round. Each game will have a different element, and is determined by the color of the symbol in the center of the carousel, so keep that in mind when choosing your starting champion and item. You should also know that two of these spawn over the course of the game, on rounds 1-1 and 3-1, and don't worry about your opponents having better elements or positioning, as everyone gets the same tiles. These can be really strong on their own, essentially giving the same effect as 1.5 items, making certain synergies have greater effect with each element. One thing you should note, however, is that the buff these tiles give does take up an item slot, meaning units placed on them can only benefit from it if they're holding less than 3 items. That's it for tiles. Now let's go over champions, starting with Qiyana, since she also changes elements from game to game. Qiyana is a unique champion in that she can have one of 4 element traits that is determined at the start of the game, much like the tiles. If an Inferno tile spawns, she's Inferno. If an Ocean one spawns, she's an Ocean, and so on. This can really change what kind of comps you'll see in each game, since she can make one trait bonus easier to get than others. While we're talking about champions, let's get Lux out of the way. Lux is a really complex champion, to say the least. Not only is she a 7-cost unit, making her pricier than any unit we've seen in the game so far, but she can also be one of 10 different synergies. We'll go over all the different synergies in a bit, but basically, Lux can be a different element each time she is rolled, and locks into that element when picked, making every other Lux that shows up the same type, and preventing your opponents from finding that element. Probably the most important thing about her though is her secondary trait, Avatar, which lets her element count double towards trait bonuses, essentially making her as valuable as 2 units. It's important to know that this only works for her starting element though, so giving her spatula items won't give you double the effect. Now that you know about the general changes, how board effects work, and some of the weirder champions, let's go down the list of trait bonuses for set 2. There are 25 total trait bonuses for you to work with that you can separate into 2 groups: elements and classes. Starting with elements, we have Cloud, which gives all allies 15, 20, or 30% dodge chance. You can think of this like a new Yordle's buff, but requiring less units and affecting the whole team, making it great if you're lacking defense. Cloud units include Yasuo, Qiyana, Janna, and Lux. Next we have Crystal. Crystal units make it so that other crystal units only take up to 100 or 60 max damage per hit. Getting 4 crystals is pretty much out of the question until you're able to get Lux, but even just 2 can help slow down hard-hitting comps like assassins from tearing through your units. Crystal units include Skarner, Ashe, Taric, and Lux. Next we have Desert, which reduces the enemy's armor by 50 or 90%. Now that Knights and Nobles are out of the meta, the only time you'll really need this is when opponents are stacking armor items or wardens, which we'll go over later. Desert units include Renekton, Azir, Sivir, and Kha'Zix. Next is Electric, which causes electric units to shock nearby enemies for 60, 200, or 500 damage when dealing or receiving critical hits. This bonus is great if you find yourself with a lot of gauntlets, since more crits means more damage. Electric units include Ornn, Volibear, Zed, and Lux. Next is Glacial. There's not really anything new to see here, so we'll be quick. Glacial units give a 20, 40, or 60% chance to stun their target for 1.5 seconds. These units include Warwick, Volibear, Braum, Ezreal, Olaf, and Lux. Next is Light. which gives 10, 25, or 50% attack speed, and 25% healing to all other light units when they die. While it does mean units need to be eliminated to gain the effect, making someone like Master Yi a light unit with a spatula item can lead to some crazy damage. Light units include Vayne, Nasus, Jax, Soraka, Aatrox, Yorick, and Lux. Next is Mountain, which gives one random unit 1500 shield. For only 2 units, it's a pretty easy buff to get, and the extra 1500 health may just be the difference between winning or losing a round. These units include Talia, Kiana, and Malphite. Next is Inferno, which causes spells to burn the ground for 80, 175, or 275 spell damage over 5 seconds. This trait has the most units in the game, but 9 Inferno is pretty tough to get without spatula items, and isn't really worth the effort. These units include Diana, Zyra, Varus, Kiana, Kindred, Annie, Brand, and Lux. Next we have Ocean, which restores all allies' mana by 15, 30, or 50 every 4 seconds. This is great for comps that want to cast a lot of spells like summoners or mages, and units include Vladimir, Kiana, Thresh, Nautilus, Syndra, Nami, and Lux. Next we have Poison, which increases target's mana cost by 50% when damaged by a poison unit. You can think of this kind of like the old demon buff, which makes it harder for enemy units to get their spells off. Poison units include Kog'Maw, Mundo, Twitch, and Singed. Next is Shadow, which makes Shadow units deal 50 or 100% increased damage at the start of the round and refreshes on takedowns. The damage increase is pretty good on its own, but having 4 Shadow units also refreshes the effect for all Shadow units, so that you can keep the bonus going all round. Shadow units include Malzahar, Kindred, Sion, Ligar, Master Yi, and Lux. Next we have Steel, which makes Steel units invincible for 2, 3, or 4 seconds after dropping below 50% health. You may want to think about adding this to your comp if you're having trouble with heavy-hitting spell-bursting teams or assassins. Steel units include Rek'Sai, Nocturne, and Lux. Finally, we have the last element, Woodland, which summons a copy of a random Woodland champion. This is a great synergy to have early game, as most of its units are only 1 or 2 cost, and can give you a 4th unit on the board without having to level. Woodland units include Ivern, Maokai, Neeko, LeBlanc, and Lux. That's it for elements, now let's jump straight into the classes. First we have Alchemist, which ignores collision and never stops moving. There's not much to say about this one, as Singed is the only alchemist in the game right now, and he kinda needs this to work properly. Next is Assassin, which again isn't too different from set 1. They deal 75 or 150% crit damage, and 10 or 20% crit chance. They also have the innate ability to jump to the furthest champion on the start of the round. Assassin units include Diana, LeBlanc, Nocturne, Kiana, Kha'Zix, and Zed. Next we have Avatar, which we went over when we talked about Lux. This trait counts the champion's element twice towards bonuses. Remember that this only applies to their original element and doesn't count for spatula items. Currently Lux is the only Avatar unit in the game. Next we have Berserker, which gives 40 or 80% chance to hit units in a cone in front of them. Berserker units also work similar to Assassins, in that they jump to the closest unit at the start of the round. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to give everyone on your team Titanic Hydra, this is it. Berserker units include Renekton, Jax, Volibear, Mundo, Sion, and Olaf. Next is another one from set 1, Blade Masters, which gives 40% chance to hit for 1, 2, or 3 additional attacks, and triggers on-hit effects. There's only 4 units in this set, meaning if you want the max bonus of 6, you're still going to need a couple of spatulas like you did in set 1. Blade Masters include Yasuo, Sivir, Aatrox, and Master Yi. Next up we have Druid, which regenerate 40 health each second. Getting 3 Druids early can give you an easy win streak, since all Druids are also Woodland units, making your team regen and giving you a 4th unit like we mentioned earlier. These units include Maokai, Ivern, and Neeko. Next is Mage, which has a 50 or 100% chance to cast their abilities twice. This is currently one of the strongest traits in the game, and can be made even stronger when paired with Ocean, to charge spells faster. Mage units include Talia, Vladimir, LeBlanc, Syndra, Vigar, and Brand. Next we have Mystic, which gives all allies 40 or 120 magic resist. This is probably a good one to have if mages are giving you a hard time. Most of the units are pretty strong on their own too. These units include Soraka, Janna, Nami, and Master Yi. Next up is Predator. His units execute enemies below 25% health. This trait is surprisingly strong and can make quick work of targets with lots of health. Its units include Kog'Maw, Warwick, Rek'Sai, and Skarner. Next we have Rangers, which is the last trait being carried over from set 1, but it's also one of the strongest comps currently. Every 3 seconds, Rangers have 30, 65, or 100% chance to double their attack for 3 seconds. Its units include Vayne, Varus, Ezreal, Kindred, Ashe, and Twitch. Next we have Summoners, which gives summoned units 40 or 100% increased health and duration. This is another pretty strong one, and if you're able to get the right mana items, you can overwhelm your opponents with minions. Its units include Zyra, Malzahar, Azir, Annie, Yorick, and Zed. And last but not least, we have Warden, which gives 100, 250, or 400 total armor to all Warden units. These guys are going to be your frontline for most comps now that Knights and Brawlers are gone. Its units include Nasus, Ornn, Braum, Thresh, Nautilus, Malphite, and Taric. That's it for trait bonuses, but of course with new traits come new spatula items. When combined with spatula, Large Rod gives Inferno, Gloves gives Berserker, Armor gives Warden, Cloak gives Light, and Tear gives Mage. BF Sword, Bow, and Giant's Belt haven't changed from set 1 and still give Assassins, Blademaster, and Glacials respectively. Now that's it for the new changes. If you'd like to download the cheat sheets, you can find them on my Twitter at itspytime2, but for now, I hope you found this useful, and if you did, be sure to hit like and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when I cover all 51 champions and their abilities in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.